Hey guys, hey guys, do you hear me? Do you see me? Hey, hey, I'm waiting. I am waiting for you. Hey, hey, hey guys. Okay, I know that I'm talking. I'm not sure that you are seeing me or hearing anything that I have to say. Okay, so you guys are in. Okay, this works. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, guys, I'm happy to be with you. Well, you can chat with me and I will answer your questions. So let us chat. I will just read the questions aloud. So, yeah, please send me your questions. Come on, guys, I'm waiting for you. Yeah, the webinar software is listed under Jonathan's name, and only Jonathan can use it. I didn't know that I wasn't configured as an owner of the webinar, so I couldn't start the broadcast. That's why I can actually chat with you within the webinar software, but you cannot see the video within the webinar software. So yeah, you should really use. Okay, funk in. Great. So yeah, you should really use the right link, link within the chat. So yeah, Donny, you're studying law, and you said that you have problems with very complex stuff that you encounter, like complex concepts and visualizing these concepts. So, Anna, would you like to tell us how you would handle something like that?
I would like to see an example first. That would be great.
Inappropriate behavior. Yeah, that's one of the examples of Donny.
How to remember the word as a
The
marker?
concept,
The
as a
concept?
concept.
Okay. So I usually go for funny. This is my type of visualization. So I think about something inappropriate that I did, and that would be the best visualization for it. How does it work as a marker for the other stuff of what kind of behavior was it? Why did I do it? What does the punishment on it and other stuff? I would relate all those details with the questions and try to answer them according to that behavior. Or if I have an example from the text, I would take an image from the text.
Yes, this is perfect. Anna is explaining us different perspectives and different examples. We can take example from our life, and we can take examples from books or TV shows or anything we want. It's much easier to use examples than to use something which is abstract. Perfect, Anna. Okay, guys. Yep. So we are using Hangout. And yeah, I will probably put the link again. Where is my link? Where is my link? Yeah, this is my link. Okay, and I will put this link again in the chat for all of you guys who missed the link. Here it goes. We have the link. And yeah, thank you, Stephanie, for sharing the link. Okay, guys. Accountability pairing. Perfect, Donny. You're filming it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, accountability pairing is already done, and you should actually check it. It's inside the course. I divided you into the work groups, and each work group has a chain of accountability. And some people already sent me their details, and everybody really wants to start this program, this accountability program. So we're really excited about it. Okay, some people try to memorize all the markers after large chunks of information. How many markers do you think it is reasonable to remember at once?
I would think first, what are the markers that I remember the most? Then I would check if there are any other parts that I missed and that are important. And it should be at about 5 plus minus 2 markers per big chunk of information. I wouldn't go into 7 plus minus 2 because it's too much.
Well, usually I remember markers per paragraph or per section of 2 or 3 paragraphs. If you try to memorize markers after more than 2 or 3 paragraphs, then it's very hard. So I actually stop, and once I have stopped, I can memorize all of the markers. During the analysis of the text that I read, it takes me about 0.5, maybe 0.2 seconds. Really short stop. But if I never stop, I cannot memorize it. Okay, guys, I'm with you. Okay, Donny asks if we create details or we create secondary markers when we encounter specific ideas. For example, if an unlawful action is a murder, there are different types of murder. So, Anna, what do you think about it? Do we expand our details or do we create additional markers?
Sometimes I call it double coding. I mean that I would add some kind of details to the main marker to make it a little bit more specific to the subject.
Well, usually we create up to 5 details per marker. So if you need to encode more than 5 details, probably you need another marker. If you need to encode less than 2 details, probably you do not need another marker. And between 2 and 5 details, whatever you do is your choice. Okay. I'm chatting while I'm talking. I'm not as skilled at it as Jonathan. So please forgive me for the small pauses. Okay, guys. Well, this was the question. Andan, do you want to tell us how you developed this method, the whole methodology of behind Keto study? When I married Anna, the course was like 120 hours long. So we decided how to compress information. After all, we teach how to learn faster. So if you need 120 hours of learning to learn faster, this is a problem. So we worked for it for how many years? 8 years, until we compressed from 120 hours of content to about 2 hours of the course. It was a monumental achievement for us, and we are so happy to do it for you. Yeah, Donny, you can generate specific markers if you have 5 things that need to be remembered. It's pretty okay.
Just a second. Let's say you need to memorize lists of things like medical student, you would have long lists for everything that you need to know as for drugs or treatments and for etc. If you need to memorize everything, you would fill your head with too many details. What you need to focus on is on the details that is harder for you to remember. So if you remember 3 things from those 5 things of the unlawful action, then you need to focus only on the other 2.
Okay, guys, we feel your love. Donny, Stephanie, Fong, who else sees us? I mean, I see just 3 persons seeing us. Is that right? Come on, guys, if you are seeing me, just tell me that you do. Okay. So we are waiting for more people to join us. Do you want to tell everybody about the key numbers method? This is a perfect method for people to remember, especially the beginners.
All the principles of the mnemonic systems is that you have a very stable system, for example, numbers. You can use any system that is easier or you are familiar with. And then you need to that would be your starting image that you would put your details and markers on it. So, for example, all the 5 things of the unlawful action would be on one number, and then that image could do all those things, like the marker that you asked me before. I don't have to take something personal. I don't have to take something from the text. It could be the image of the mnemonic system, and then you build your memory on it.
Okay. There are questions about which chat should we use now, the webinar Jam chat or the Google Hangouts chat. I'm perfectly good with the webinar Jam chat, and this way we will have a recording of what we do for later. So probably I prefer the webinar Jam chat. Okay, thank you, Sky. Our lecture is still having problems connecting. Why? I wonder why. Did anybody try to use this link on iPad? Okay, let us continue. The PEG system is often used under a second name of number system. PEG system was developed long ago, and it is one of the first systems that we usually teach. The best way about it is that it is very simple, very well devised, and it could be used for anything. Yeah, accountability partners. I will try to generate a link now.
Personally, I think I saw a question about do I like to memorize lists or not lists. So personally, I like the principle of organization. And then if I really don't see the structure, if I don't understand it fully, and I just need to memorize something that I forget, I would make a list. So in the beginning, when I was trained into the mnemonic system and the speed reading, I was on my first year of a bachelor degree, and I had like 13 exams of criminology and sociology and psychology and behavioral science and everything. And I was memorizing everything with the system. So I broke it down into parts, I number it, I draw all my markers and symbols around the number. So number 1 would be a pen, number 2 would be a swan, etc. And then I found out that it was very easy to go to the exam because I remembered everything. But then with time, I didn't repeat the stories and the lists. So if I didn't fully understand it, I forgot. So sometimes I had a problem with names and numbers, and if they were part of the mnemonics and the memorization, I would forget it. And so now I can sometimes can't remember all the small details. But if it was part of the understanding what was that period or after something, I would prefer to organize an information and see the structure, and only then go to memorization and to lists.
Perfect. You remember that during our last webinar we discussed anchors? Now sometimes you generate your own anchors, and sometimes you use predefined anchors. With number system you have 10 predefined anchors, one for each number. This way you do not forget anything, you just follow your anchors, which are numbers. With POA system you have like a million anchors, so you should decide if you want to go with something easy to learn and simple like PEG system, or with something much more complex and versatile like PAO. It's up to you. Yes, Donnie, we understand your position. As far as I remember, you can now visualize simple and pretty generic objects like cars. My question is, can you visualize scenes from movies that you know? Or can you visualize and place objects from everyday life inside these scenes? Sometimes it is very good to visualize scenes from movies, especially for people who love movies. This way you have markers for everything.
As I say, that would be your advantage over other people that would struggle with some scenes or meanings, and you can use your prior knowledge, prior thing that you are interested in. So it could be sports, it could be, movies.
Well, you should find something that you love to visualize. I love to visualize video games. I have written like 10 posts about it on my blog www.ketostudy.com. Just search for high-level visualization. When I need to visualize huge memory palace, well, I cannot visualize memory palaces. So I visualize whole landscapes. I generate like levels of video games, full with details, and then I walk those levels. And I remember everything on them. So if you're a huge gamer, it is just perfect for visualizing.
Overall issue with the markers is the right words to pick. The right word for a marker, it's not something that summarizes the main idea. Marker is something that sticks. So you read something or something would happen really, really fast, and one of the details would just stand out. So that would be a marker. And the words that are faster to stand out, to stick, is the words that for our brain would be easier and faster to visualize. So it doesn't have to take time to choose the markers.
Perfect. Now there is a question about long-term memorization. While we memorize short-term materials when we read, the long-term materials are visualized and written in our memory in a different form. Usually, we generate our long-term memories from short-term memories when we sleep. So the more you sleep, the better will be your long-term memory. Now, there is a limited amount of what you can remember within one sleep. So occasionally, even the best remembered material will slip out. You can use Anki or other flashcard software to revise the material that you know. Or you can read similar stuff. Like if you have 10 articles about some subjects, you just read them one after another, one day after another. This way, one memory reinforces another, and you build up your knowledge. So this is really up to you. I know that Anthony generates dialogues. There is this method where you generate dialogues and place the information you need within this dialogue. This way, when people talk, they recite everything they need to learn. Now, I know that Anthony is learning Chinese, so he created long Chinese dialogues so he can remember the Chinese language. And for tonality, he uses very special method of kangaroo doing stuff. I do not want to spoil it for you. We are working on our language course, and that will be in it.
I use the system of questions. So when I learn something, first step would be analyze what question I need to ask myself, or someone would be asking me, or the exam could ask me. So I would get to those details. That way I already store the memories in the form of a question and answer. So that could be your way to summarize or to take notes. Instead of writing down the details are there in the information. You can write down your questions. Another thing that I do for the long term, sometimes you don't have the opportunity to talk about it with someone in 1 week or after 3 months. So I would be planning in my head how that would go. And the fact that you visualize something that could happen or might happen makes your brain to believe it and recreate it as the time comes. So it's like a programming behavior. So you imagine yourself lecturing it in in your perfect lecture place, or you can plan how you use it on a patient or people that you want to work with this information or thing on.
Okay, Donny, I give you my permission to post this on Facebook because really not everybody can see it. Now, one of the ways to remember things long term, and one of the oldest ways to do it, are Socratic dialogues. You combine the three methods that we just mentioned: dialogues, questions, and talking with the role models and imaginary people. This way, you can generate very cool dialogues with your role models, and it works perfectly. You know that Socrates couldn't even write, so Plato wrote all of his dialogues for him. Plato was a very prolific writer, so sometimes I'm wondering if this is a real Socrates or this is just a vivid imagination of Plato. Anyway, we remember it now, like 2,500 years later. So probably this works. Okay, Anna, what would you recommend someone who is just starting to visualize and who loves computer games?
I remember how I started the visualization training. So as I told, I was in the middle of my bachelor degree in the university, and I was laughing through the whole lecture, and professors would throw me out because I was making too much noise. So what I'm trying to say is I was very curious how visualization would work in my daily routine. So every word that someone would say, I would immediately visualize something funny. So visualization is something that you need to work on through your day, and not only in a text, because if it will come to you very easily in specific things like cars, etc., things that you deal with daily, it will become much easier on the harder words, and you would have a starting vocabulary to build on.
Well, I agree with Anna. Learning is very much like meditation. At the beginning, you kind of learn to meditate while you sit, and then with time, you meditate all the time. Actually, you do not distinguish meditation from your real life because every day, every hour of the day, you kind of meditate. So, yeah, I think that you can do it every day and all the time of the day, and you can visualize whatever you need to achieve your goals, not just memorization. Visualization is a very good trick, and it is used even by Navy SEALs to achieve their goals. You know that, Anna? It is a basis of resilience, it is a basis of habit changing, it is a basis of many good things that you can accomplish. Okay. There are some cool things people tell about their phones and music and decluttering. We have so much noise around us, and we want the noise to stop so our markers come out more vividly. Some people just turn off their emails, turn off their music, and switch to old phones and old communication methods. Some people go off the grid. So while we use visualization whenever it is possible, how do we declutter our mind from the noise that is around us? The noise that we didn't want to be a part of our life.
For me, that would be focusing on the main idea. I would take the headline. I would try to go into that world, bring everything that I know, bring all the questions that I have, bring some of my assumptions, how that would work. So when I'm in that world, that would be almost a meditation, I think. And also, I used in my training, I used the Schultz exercises. They work perfectly for focusing, because when you look for numbers and you need to focus on one centered place, that would be also a good meditation exercise, if I remember correctly. And so when I focus on a clear picture, that would clear everything for me.
Yeah, I agree with Anna. As we work faster and faster, we put more strain on our brains. This way we are razor sharp, very, very focused. Once we are focused, we do not have the clutter around us. It just disappears because of our razor sharp focus. So actually, as we become more proficient, as we work faster, we do not have to pay attention to the clutter. It just disappears. So probably our course is a good medicine against ADHD. What do you think, Anna?
It gives a lot of tools. Sometimes there are contradictions, like the pre-reading stage. When you do have too many assumptions and questions in your head, it could be difficult to concentrate on the actual information. So for those problems, I would be trying to figure it out maybe personally, what does work. But I had great successes with ADHD.
Perfect. Do you use any medications? Many people use medications to increase their brain's functionality. I know that Jonathan and Anthony are using medications, nootropics. I know that I'm not using, and I know that Anna is not using.
You had a period for.
I tried, I experimented with some supplements, and well, nothing happened. It didn't change me in any profound way, so I didn't feel like it. Did you try anything like that?
No, I can understand and feel deep for a lot of learning disabilities and problems. For that, I don't have any experience.
Well, you eat a lot of candies, Anna.
Okay.
Um,
Maybe I need that to make myself more aware and active.
Anthony wrote a very good post about food that is actually good for you and improves your memory, and shared it today on Facebook. It basically has green tea and energy bars in it and other cool stuff. So you can
I
eat.
do that too.
So this is basically healthier and more memory-friendly alternative to candies. The link is on Facebook, and if you write me info@ketostudy.com, I will send the link to you. Okay, guys, let us discuss the memory palace. Many of our students just love Memory Palace. Jonathan loves it. One of the things that I didn't use correctly when I started with Memory Palace, I tried to look at it like a first-person shooter. So my imaginary viewpoint moved all the time, and it was really slow. Now, Jonathan explains to me that he is generating the mental pulses and looking at them from above to minimize the movement of his viewing point. As there are many small optimizations that make the memory palace faster. What do you think about this methodology? I know that you prefer mind maps. Can you explain us why?
again, I was trained in a basic memorization system, and I did use that for my exams. But since then, I would be only performing with the memorization techniques. I prefer organization and logic over, memorize something, because even after long years of training, my memory would be really bad for names and numbers. So I would be memorizing probably those things. Other things, I would use my logic and questions to make sense.
Okay. About that, both me and Anna are very logical. So maybe this is one of the reasons that we prefer a methodology which came out of programming. Mind maps came out of abstract math, programming, project management. Mind palaces came out of marketing and oratory and politics. So probably this is an issue of personality, like technical people versus humanitarians. Well, Funk, I drink too much coffee. I really should drink less coffee. So yeah, I drink coffee. I drink too much of it. I try to quit several times, but it's very hard for me. Meditation is very good for us. Did you practice meditation?
No.
Well, I practiced meditation for several years, and it was very good for me because when you meditate, you can fixate your focus, and there are many techniques to do so. You can fixate your focus on visualization. You could generate sounds and fixate your focus on that. You can fixate your focus on your body and on your breathing, and you can move your focus to where you need. So meditation is actually a technique of controlling your focus. Probably if you didn't have any experience with meditation, you should give it at least an honest try.
Sometimes when you multitask or do something really fast, like the speed reading, that's supposed to help you to focus, because if your brain knows that you need to drive or something is happening, all your attention goes to that. So for example, if you read small parts, like 2 or 3 sentences, and really fast, and do it even a couple of times, that will help you to stay on the moment and not go with your thoughts.
If you're asking me about food supplements and nootropics you should try, I'm not actually a good person to ask. I know that Anthony and Jonathan are launching a new product where they will curate some physical products that will be beneficial for memory and otherwise. So probably I would wait until they launch that product, and then I would start to follow it. How do you practice working on focus? I remember that when I started to speed read, you asked me to sit in a room full of noise and just read, and this way I suppressed my vocalization. This is one of the methods that I used, but we actually do not recommend it. Can you explain why?
That could be a practice also. The thought behind it was the multitask. If you have multiple things to focus on and you really need to focus on one, or you work on all the senses and you teach yourself, multitasking is something that you can train yourself to do. It's not a born set quality. So if you work on your multitasking, then it means that each one of the senses is very trained, so it's supposed to help you. I think there is a lot of programs for focusing that do those games, so you don't have to go to a room or to a market to do that. Also, another thing that I emphasize is the pre-reading, which is supposed to work on the focus too. As I said, it depends on the type of ADHD that you have. But let's say if you do a pre-reading separately from the reading, and it motivates you and it interests you to know all those stuff and answer your questions, that could also motivation and interest could also help for focus.
Funny that you mentioned multitasking. I know that there have been many researches against multitasking, but not against the good multitasking. Apparently, there is a good multitasking and a bad multitasking, and only about 2% of people know how to do multitasking properly. I think that some of the trainings that I have done with you just helped me to do the multitasking properly. And we do have some exercises for multitasking on ketostudy.com. So please write me info@ketostudy.com if you want to get links to those exercises. And I will be happy to help you multitask as you should and have more than 24 hours a day. Okay, mind maps. How do you generate the logic that connects the markers together? Well, I do my logical markers. Logical markers are connections which reappear all over the materials that we learn. These are stable connections like causality, if, then, or negation. One contradicts the other and there is debate. And each time that I have a reappearing logical marker, I just put this marker as a sign on the connection inside my map. Now this is a part of my secret sauce, and usually I do not share this material because it is very hard to generate the logical markers. You actually need to understand the material that you are reading, and the markers should represent one of the common connections that you encounter. I know that you use questions to generate something very similar. You also use perspectives, like what would someone do? I usually kind of think about the Christian question, what would Jesus do? I know that you take it one step further.
And the perspectives?
Yeah.
Sometimes when I see it, the subject, it's too repetitive, so I see that everything is connected to everything and it's too boring, then I would use a perspective just to make it, funny.
This is interesting. Funny is something which really helps us. This is actually a creative skill. You said that you are extremely logical. And actually, the only time that I have seen Anna really funny is when she creates markers. So guys, if you want to see Anna making something funny, please send us examples for the markers you want Anna to create. Okay, there is a lot of communication about different software you can use to improve your focus. Did you play with software for focus improval, like Lumosity and BrainFM?
I used, I was consulting some of the programs here in Israel, but I suppose they work on the same principles.
Alpha waves.
Yeah. So that could help you to develop that and behaviorally learn where the space in your head that you need to be in, but the same would give you the behavioral the cognitive
Look, I will just share my
the biological system, biofeedback, and neurolinguistic and meditation. So basically teaches your brain where it needs to go to be focused. But ADHD is something, from my understanding, not a personal connection, but so it's something that you're supposed to learn with time. So if you start just now to be aware of when you drift, then your awareness, that would be the key to bring you back. So you can't avoid from spacing out, because this is what means ADHD, but by being conscious on it, you can go back faster. So you would, I had a student with bad ADHD, and he got into a place where he could, catch himself drifting out, and knows that he missed only 2 words. So you don't have to go back full page.
And this brings us to accountability. Accountability is really important. You actually need a good feedback on what you do and what you have achieved. Each of you will be given an accountability partner. Actually, you have been given an accountability partner, and you should really use it. And before we go into it, there is a quick question by Donnie. Causality example of accountability and damage.
Okay, so damage would be a car, because I had like a stupid damage to our car when somebody keyed. That would be like a stupid damage. And accountability, it's very hard for me to grasp it in English, so just give me a second. What I'm doing in my head is, as I said the last time, I would think a sentence or a situation in a movie or something, that word would be a part of it, and that would be my image.
I would take it much simpler. I'm Anna's accountability partner. So when the car got damaged, she went to me crying. And this is damage and accountability, like causality. When the car is damaged, Anna runs to me crying.
But then it's exactly why we're talking about visualization. How do you make it accountability and not causality? So accountability for me, I would, now I remember, I always use that word when I'm saying that I need to do something. And if you would be accountable, that I would, let's say I need to put a paper or do something for the house, I would tell that you told me when I have to do it, and that would be accountability for me, right?
Okay. Now, guys, if you have some text that you want to send to us, you can do it. Just mark the text and send it. Please put it inside your question and make it relatively short, like a paragraph long. And we will try to see how we can approach this text. There is nothing wrong with weird markers. Do you remember my first markers?
Do you remember yours?
Oh, it's so embarrassing. They were so bad. They were all about sex and violence, I think. It was very, very bad. I'm actually a bit ashamed about it. But Anna was very nice to me, and she said that as long as I remember them, they're okay. Guys, there is nothing wrong with starting with weird markers. With time, your markers get better and better. You will improve, and you will have a very wide range of markers.
It also depends, because visualization is something that comes from your psychic. Depends on your state of mind. So, if this is your mood, that those markers would be probably more available to you. We say the researchers says that we would remember bad things more than other things. So sometimes you can even I had people that say, I can never hurt something or someone. So for those people, they would never go into bad things in visualization, but you can train yourself to make them, violent, and because of the fact that your brain would remember them more.
Well, guys, some of the secret sauce, themes. Usually when I generate markers, I use some sort of themes. When I pre-read a document, I generate the theme in which I want to create markers, like a world from which I want to take the examples for the markers. It could be vampires, sci-fi, games, anything you want. Now, once you have created a theme, all the markers you take out, you build them according to the theme. This way you create a great story which doesn't have inner contradictions, and it is very standing alone. You can easily find it inside the clutter of your head because it is so precise and so full of details. And all of the details come from this theme. When I talk about relating subjects to my past knowledge, it comes with the theme too. So themes are really important for me. Okay, guys, there are many, many good questions. So let us see what we should do about it.
This is a paragraph Stephanie sent, and she probably wants to pick a marker.
Okay. Okay, let us go with Donnie's example. It's actually more complex, and Donnie needed more explanation of disclaimer. Do you want me to take it? Okay, let us start. Explanation of a disclaimer. First of all, let us start with the top level marker. What is a disclaimer? Disclaimer is something that you say you are not accountable for. So it's like a child who broke something and says, well, don't look at me, I am not accountable. And here you have your top level marker. Now you go down to lower levels. It is an agreement. Agreement for me is a handshake between companies. Well, you can skip it because you can actually use it for other entities. And standards of reasonableness and fairness is not acceptable to exclude liability damage caused by persons who are not managerial staff and on occupations such exclusion. Look, you cannot put text that is not very well formatted inside the question because it generates logical contradictions. The basic idea that you wanted to say is that some of the problems that you put a disclaimer for are outside the range of fairness. Now, fairness for me is a fair game like chess. And liability damage is the vase that the child broke. You remember the child in the top marker? The child breaks a vase. So the liability damage is something that the child broke. Now, a child is not old enough to be responsible for his things. So he is not managerial staff, and his occupation is, well, non-valid. This way I remember the logic behind the idea. Okay, let us move on. You can later put your text within the discussion pages of the mastermind group. I will relate them in my spare time. This is actually a very good question. You should start using the discussion within the groups. The mastermind class has a lot of discussion pages, and I really want to be active there. Stephanie, I kind of missed half of your question. I think that it doesn't go through the chat because it is just too long. I guess that if you put it inside this discussion that we have on our group, I will be able to address it. Okay, guys. Donnie says that the text actually comes like this literally from his study book. Well, there is an issue of context.
Okay, let me try.
Okay, do it.
I would go from top to bottom. I have the main idea, as you said, of the accountability, right? And I know that it's let's say you probably already know that it comes in a form of agreement. If it goes in a form of agreement, it's supposed to be between two parties about a subject. So I don't need to visualize it, just see the structure. And so I ask myself which word is stand out. I would go with the non-managerial. Why? Because it's very, let's say all the other words I'm pretty familiar and understand, and this is what stand out. And then I would go bottom up. Who is non-managerial? Why? What does it mean? A non-managerial to what? To whom? I think that would be all the details would be the answers for those questions. And this is how I know that this is probably a good marker. I'm not fully understand what I'm reading, but this is how markers work for me. I pick the word that is stand out, and then I figure it out to the top again to see if it relates, and if it does, and it generate questions, and I have answers from the paragraph, then it's probably it.
Well, Anna, you raise a very good question. Many people are bottom-up thinkers, and many people are top-down thinkers. Now, both ways of approaching issues are actually equally valid. You can start from general idea and then go into details. You can start from the details and then go to the general idea, and you can go both ways, completing a full circle. It is just up to you how you want to use them. Oh, Donnie, you put the text not in English. That's why we get this text. Okay, now I get it. Did you understand it?
It's translations of something?
It's translation. I think it's from Holland or something like that. So the text was scrambled by Google Translate. For example, it was not between companies, but between entities, and it was changed. That's why it looked so different to me. Now, context is very, very important, like Donny just demonstrated to us. When we take something out of context, it changes its meaning. So, for me, as a top-down thinker, generating context is very, very important. Actually, before I start going down, I generate the context. For someone who is going bottom up, generating the context is the last thing that he does. And it is also very important to generate the context after you finished the reading. Can you please show us an example of generating a context?
As I said, I'm not sure how non-managerial would be a good marker because I don't understand everything. But then I can say, okay, so we have one person that's trying maybe to manage something, then what is the subject and what are the tools? So I generate from a general understanding of, two people trying to do something and someone is not listening to him. And that would be the main context, the main idea.
Well, actually, the main idea is the ability to sign something. Manager can actually sign the agreements for the company. He's representing the company. For example, CEO or CFO or other C-level personnel and president of the board can actually sign stuff for a company. Someone who is not a director, probably it's not director. Someone who is not a director cannot sign for the company. So he cannot be held responsible for many things that the company does. Progress monitoring. Well, Stephanie, you can start right away. You don't have to wait for it. I will look at everything that you file. And if I find there something interesting, I will just email you or put it inside the discussion group or generate some other information that will help you. So you can start sending me information for feedbacks. And you don't have to wait for anything.
So if you want to go on the paragraph that Stephanie sent,
it's not full. It didn't go through. Yep, it's inside the discussion page. I will do it offline. It's very good that we have the discussion pages, so we can do a lot of work offline. Now, we're actually running a little bit late. We started a little bit later, so we're talking a little bit more. Do you have another 10 minutes? Cool. So guys, we are giving you another 10 minutes. And you can enjoy them with your questions and our stories, and we will try to be funny. Now, Anna, I was your first student. I remember myself as the worst student that you had. Do you remember me as a student? At the beginning, when I came to Anna, I was so full of myself, and she tested me, and I got probably the worst score that she has ever seen. So she took me aside and said, "Look, I had brain damaged people scoring higher than you." It was really funny. So I said, "Well, you're probably doing something wrong." So I took the test again and again, and it scored the same each time. This is when I decided that I really need to learn this technique. Yeah, everybody feels as a terrible student at the beginning. What is important is where you take it, how you build your strengths from your weaknesses. At some point, I found out that I do not follow Anna's explanation. So I had to go offline and generate my own theory of how things work. Once I generated my own theory, I started to implement it, and it actually doubled my reading speed. So you should always look for your own ways. Um,
That's what I was thinking. You were always trying to show me that it could be done differently. So I built my system of learning in a very basic, simple way, so I could relate to most of the people. And also, I think that I had that reaction a couple of times because of the difference of the bottom up and top down thinking. And seeing the bigger picture to go to the top, it's very hard for me. So this is why it was very hard for me to analyze you, because my perspective is always to check how many details you can remember and retrieve. The understanding is not my responsibility. I trust that you understand all the subjects that you are in. So I can't check that. I check memory. By the way, I had it with your boss also.
no, whom? Which boss?
Offer.
Ufer?
Yeah, he had like the worst top thinking ever. He couldn't see beyond like 20%
He was
of
not my
details.
boss. He was my colleague.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, we kind of learn how to prioritize things, and Anna is very literal. So she says, "Well, what do you remember?" Well, this is not useful for me. I remember nothing. You're such a poor listener. You're such a poor reader. This is really an issue of perspective. Once you learn to prioritize, you read much faster, but you lose details. So you really need to balance your reading. Well, guys, there may be some problems with some forms. We have encountered it before. We will need to check it. We will check it with you. And please send me mails to info@key2study.com, and we will get to the bottom of each and every problem. Unfortunately for us, Jonathan is now in Brazil on a carnival, so he is not available. I hope that nothing bad happens to him at the carnival. What do you think, Anna? Carnival, colors, effects, buildings, people, actions.
I had one student that built a map. He said in the beginning of the course in Tel Aviv University, he said, like, if your course can help me to sell one of my projects, that would be great. And by the end of it, he brought like a 3-4D mind map of his project that he were able to sell. So whatever works for you, use the things that you that you can work with, that come intuitively to you. So I would never use colors. Doesn't come intuitively to me.
Oh, I do it all the time.
I know. So whatever, if you need to explain something to me, what would you need to take? Do you go and dance it? Do you draw it? Do you pick a picture, or it's like a movie? So whatever helps you, whatever effects you need, that would be great. I usually, for a map, I just remember the structure and how I load it. I do sometimes icons that I find funny and I can remember. I don't usually build, for years I didn't build a very complex mind maps. I had students that found that if they, in the lectures, that would use programs of mind maps, and that's it. So like several words, and they knew that they can retrieve all the lecture and all the information.
Well, guys, people are different, and you should use the things that you are good at. You can convert everything that makes you stand into your strengths, and you can use it for your advantage. And this is actually very good that we are different. This way, it is more interesting together.
Yeah, you can learn from each other and hear ideas and try them and see what works for you.
So, guys, while we are ending this discussion, I want to say that we should continue the discussion on our site, and we should explore the things that make us different and special. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Well, guys, it was very special, and you can continue with us on the discussion pages. Thank you, guys, and goodbye. Okay, and we are off.